So me and one of my buddies are going to end up doing a full rebuild on this blaster. I believe this is a 99 blaster. The engine is sucking in the transmission fluid, so the cases have to be split. It also needs a new top end due to all the air leaks. It was leaking through the head gasket. We had an exhaust leak, and it was leaking from the cylinder itself between the cylinder and the case. So this is had been a long time coming. It's got a lot of problems with it, so we're basically just going to strip it down completely. We're going to take the plastic off. We're going to clean up the frame. We might re-weld a few spots and grind down a few spots and make it look really, really nice. We're going to repaint the shocks. We're going to do just about everything to this blaster from the ground up. So first of all, I'm going to take the plastic off. A couple bolts here. There's a couple bolts here. One there. Take off the bar there that holds the plastic on, and then you got these 6 bolts in the back, plus these bolts right here that hold on the rear plastic. I'm going to go ahead and take those off now, and then I'll show what it looks like. Now I've got the plastic off. Now I disconnected this bracket, and then I'm going to take the pegs off along with these pieces. Disconnect the engine. I'm going to disconnect the crankcase vent, the clutch cable, the parking brake cable. I'm going to take off the kickstarter and the shifter on the other side. I'm going to disconnect the chain, and then I'm going to take off these 2 pieces of plastic off the sides. As I go through and disconnect all the electronic stuff, I label it. Like these 4 wires here go to the stator, so I put a piece of tape on there, labeled those 4 going to the stator. The tail light I leave connected, so that way I just don't have to worry about it. I can just rerun it. I believe those were for the oil sensor for when you had low oil, but we run this on mixed now. We don't run it as oil injection, so those are useless. I believe this one's for the Tors, which once again useless. We disconnected that. This wire is going to be the signal wire for the coil. I'm going to label that one, and then we got a ground, which is this one here, that goes up and grounds out right next to the coil right there. I'm going to disconnect these and label all of them just so I remember what they are. So I have most of the electronics disconnected. I just label them. I got the stator, the coil signal wire, the coil ground, the CDI box, voltage regulator. If it has bolts that don't stay in it, then I just include the bolts inside the tape so I don't lose them. I just have to disconnect the headlight and then the kill switch, the run switch, and then the cables up top. To disconnect the cables, basically just loosen this so that all 3 of those line up like that, and then you want to tighten this bolt as much as you can. You just pull that out and then slide it forward, and it'll come right out of that clip there. So now I've got the wire harness out. There's the pile, the big mess. I labeled everything so I know exactly how it'll go back together. I can get all these wires cleaned up and use some dielectric grease on them if I want to, put new fittings in if I need to. It was really, really simple to do, just a little bit time consuming. I also got the clutch lever and brake levers off. I just disconnected them. I still got to take the brake lever off of the front here and disconnect it from the front hubs. Basically all I have left to do is get the engine out pretty much, which is going to consist of disconnecting the clutch cable right there, which is really easy to do. Basically you just bend this little tab over, bend that over, slide it that way, and it pulls right out. Really simple to do. The chain, it's been a while since I've taken it off. I think you just pop these 2 off, that slides off, and then the whole sprocket will slide off. You may need to loosen the axle a little bit, which you do that by loosening these 2 lock nuts, and then loosen the screw, and then the axle will pivot back and forth. And you also, it'll help if you undo this bolt here on the top, right there and right there. If you loosen that one and loosen the one down there on the bottom, as well as these 2, then the whole axle will pivot back and forth, and it'll give you a lot more slack to pull that chain off. It's a good idea if you're going to use the same chain and the same sprocket to remember about where they were before if you had them adjusted right. So you got about a 1/2 inch there between the nut and the head of the bolt, so I know where to put them when I get them back on there. One thing about this that I'm not sure if I like this design or not is the fact that this rear swing arm bolt goes through the engine. So when you take the engine out, you need to put that bolt back through in order to hold the swing arm up. So basically you need something to hold up the back of the quad, or you need somebody to hold up the back of the quad while you pull the engine out. So it's really a two-man job to do that. Other than that, it's just this bolt down here on the bottom, right there on the bottom underneath the Kickstarter, and then this bolt in the front. Other than the chains, cables, and wires, it's just those three bolts holding in the entire engine. So I showed you guys earlier that I already drained the transmission fluid out of it. So now I'm going to get some of those bolts loosened up, and I'll loosen up the axle and hopefully get this chain and sprocket off at least, and then when I have some more help, I'll take the rest of the engine out.